A dedicated nurse was caring for a comatose billionaire, but everything changed when he opened his eyes. What seemed like merely a patient awakening turned into the start of a plot filled with secrets, threats, and unexpected twists. She was about to discover that not all battles take place in the silence of a hospital room. The pristine halls of St. Luke's Hospital gleamed under the soft glow of recessed lighting, their marble floors reflecting the wealth and prestige that made it Chicago's premier medical institution. Aurora Matthews adjusted her crisp white uniform as she made her way through the VIP wing, where each suite resembled a five-star hotel room more than a hospital chamber. The air carried the subtle scent of lavender, masking the sterile hospital atmosphere with an artificial veneer of luxury. "Another late shift, Aurora," Dr. Sarah Chen called out, her Louboutin heels clicking against the marble as she approached. "You've been practically living here since the Crawford case." Aurora tucked a strand of auburn hair behind her ear, offering a tired smile. "Someone has to keep watch. Besides, Noah's staying with my sister this week." She didn't mention that the extra shifts helped pay for her son's private school tuition, a necessity in their upscale neighborhood, where education came with a premium price tag. The two women paused outside room 1101, where Ethan Crawford lay in his $1,000 a night private suite. Through the glass wall, they could see the tech billionaire's still form, surrounded by state-of-the-art medical equipment that beeped steadily in the dim light. "Any changes?" Dr. Chen asked, reviewing the charts on her platinum-plated tablet. "Nothing significant, but..." Aurora hesitated, then continued in a lower voice. "I swear sometimes I see his fingers twitch, or tears in his eyes. It's like he's trying to communicate." Dr. Chen's perfectly manicured nails tapped against the tablet screen. "Aurora, we've been over this. Mr. Crawford's condition is stable, but unchanged. Don't let hope cloud your professional judgment." As if on cue, the elevator doors at the end of the hall opened with a soft chime. Ryan Crawford emerged, his Armani suit as impeccable as always, trailing the scent of expensive cologne. His presence immediately changed the atmosphere, turning the air thick with tension. "Ladies," Ryan nodded curtly, his Patek Philippe watch catching the light. "I trust my cousin is receiving the best care money can buy." "Of course, Mr. Crawford," Dr. Chen replied smoothly. "We were just reviewing his latest vitals." Aurora watched as Ryan approached his cousin's bedside, noting how he barely glanced at Ethan's face before turning his attention to his phone. The contrast between the two cousins couldn't be more striking. While Ethan had built his fortune through innovation and creativity, Ryan had inherited his wealth and seemed to wear it like armor. "Miss Matthews," Ryan called out, not looking up from his device. "I noticed you've been logging an unusual number of hours with my cousin. The board of directors is concerned about potential liability issues." Aurora felt her spine stiffen. "I'm simply doing my job, Mr. Crawford. Your cousin requires constant monitoring." "Yes, well," Ryan finally looked up, his steel-gray eyes cold. "Perhaps it's time we reviewed the staffing arrangements. We wouldn't want anyone becoming too attached." The threat in his words was clear, and Aurora felt her heart rate quicken. She'd heard rumors about Ryan's ruthless business tactics, how he'd systematically pushed out anyone who stood between him and greater control of Crawford Technologies during Ethan's coma. "Mr. Crawford," Dr. Chen interjected, "Nurse Matthews is one of our most experienced staff members. Her dedication to patient care is exemplary." Ryan's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I'm sure it is. However, given the sensitive nature of my cousin's condition and her substantial resources at stake, we need to ensure everything is handled with absolute propriety." Later that evening, after Ryan had departed in his chauffeur-driven Bentley, Aurora sat beside Ethan's bed, completing her nightly routine. The machines hummed softly as she checked his vitals, her movements precise and professional despite her exhaustion. "You should see what they've done to your company," she spoke softly, adjusting his pillows. "Every day there's another news story about Crawford Technologies' aggressive acquisitions. Your cousin's turning your legacy into something you never intended." As she spoke, she noticed something unusual, a slight increase in Ethan's brain activity on the monitor. Leaning closer, she studied his face, looking for any sign of consciousness. "Ethan," she whispered, hope creeping into her voice. "If you can hear me, try to move your fingers." For a moment, nothing happened. Then, so slight she might have imagined it, his index finger twitched against the Egyptian cotton sheets. Aurora's heart leaped, But before she could call for Dr. Chen, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Distance yourself from the Crawford case, or your son's private school scholarship might face unfortunate complications. Her hand trembled as she set the phone down. Through the window, she could see the Chicago skyline glittering like a fortune in diamonds, beautiful, but cold. Somewhere in one of those towering skyscrapers, decisions were being made about Ethan's fate, and perhaps her own. Looking back at Ethan's peaceful face, Aurora made a decision. She wouldn't abandon him, no matter the cost. Something wasn't right about his accident, about Ryan's increasing control over the company, about the subtle threats and pressure to step away. "I don't know if you can hear me," she whispered, checking to ensure they were truly alone, "but I promise you I'm not going anywhere. We'll figure this out together." As if in response, the machines monitoring Ethan's brain activity showed another spike, and Aurora could have sworn she saw his eyelids flutter. In that moment, surrounded by the trappings of wealth and power, she realized that the most valuable things, integrity, compassion, truth, couldn't be bought at any price. The night stretched ahead, full of possibilities and dangers, as Aurora settled in for her watch, unaware that her decision would soon set in motion events that would shake the foundations of Chicago's elite society and test the limits of loyalty, love, and survival. Crawford Technologies' executive suite, casting long shadows across the handcrafted Italian marble floors. Marcus Chen, the company's chief legal officer, stood before the mahogany conference table, his Hugo Boss suit perfectly pressed as he addressed the board of directors. "Gentlemen, ladies," he began, his voice steady despite the tension in the room, "our Q3 projections are exceeding expectations. However, there's a matter of delicacy we need to address." He glanced at Ryan Crawford, who sat at the head of the table in Ethan's usual place, before continuing. "We've received inquiries from the SEC regarding some recent transactions." Ryan's knuckles whitened around his Mont Blanc pen. "What kind of inquiries?" "They're particularly interested in the series of offshore accounts that were created shortly before Ethan's accident," Marcus replied, carefully watching Ryan's reaction. "Accounts that weren't disclosed in our last financial statement." The boardroom erupted in hushed whispers. Victoria Blackwood, the silver-haired CFO who'd worked alongside Ethan for 15 years, spoke up. "This is the first I'm hearing about any offshore accounts. All our international transactions are processed through our established channels." "Perhaps," Ryan interjected smoothly, "this isn't the appropriate forum for such sensitive discussions. Marcus, we'll address this privately in my office." Meanwhile, at St. Luke's, Aurora was dealing with her own complications. She arrived for her shift to find Jennifer Torres, the hospital's risk management director, waiting at the nurses' station. "Aurora, we need to discuss your involvement with the Crawford case," Jennifer said, leading her to a private consultation room decorated with abstract art, worth more than Aurora's annual salary. "We've received some concerning reports." Aurora's heart raced, but she kept her expression neutral. "What kind of reports?" "There are allegations that you've been accessing Mr. Crawford's medical records outside your assigned shifts and possibly sharing information with unauthorized parties." Jennifer slid a thick folder across the polished conference table. "Care to explain these login timestamps?" "That's impossible," Aurora protested, examining the records. "I haven't accessed anything beyond my regular duties. Someone must have used my credentials." "These allegations are serious, Aurora. The Crawford family's privacy is paramount. They're one of our biggest benefactors. The new pediatric wing wouldn't exist without their donations." Before Aurora could respond, her phone buzzed with a text from her sister, Catherine. "Emergency at Noah's school. Call me ASAP." Across town, in the pristine halls of Lakeside Preparatory Academy, Noah Matthews sat in the headmaster's office, his small frame dwarfed by the leather armchair. Headmaster Princeton adjusted his wire-rimmed glasses, looking uncomfortably at Catherine. "Mrs. Winters, I'm afraid there's been an issue with Noah's scholarship documentation," he explained. "It appears some crucial paperwork is missing. Without it, we cannot justify continuing his enrollment." Catherine's eyes narrowed. "Missing? That's impossible. My sister submitted everything months ago. I have copies at home." "Nevertheless," the headmaster continued, "until this is resolved, Noah's attendance here may need to be suspended." Back at the hospital, Dr. Sarah Chen was reviewing Ethan's latest test results when she noticed something odd. Comparing the current readings with those from immediately after his accident, subtle discrepancies emerged. The pattern of brain activity, the toxicology reports, something wasn't adding up. She was so absorbed in the data that she barely noticed the tall figure entering her office until he spoke. "Finding anything interesting, Doctor?" Dr. Chen looked up to find Marcus Chen, no relation, despite sharing a surname, standing in her doorway. The lawyer's presence was unexpected and immediately set her on edge. "Mr. Chen, what brings Crawford Technologies legal counsel to my office?" "Professional courtesy," he replied, closing the door. "I thought you should know that the board is considering transferring Ethan to a specialized facility in Switzerland. The paperwork will be ready by week's end." "Switzerland?" Dr. Chen stood abruptly. "That's absurd. His condition is delicate. Any transfer could be dangerous. The board feels it's in everyone's best interest, particularly given the recent complications with certain staff members." At that moment, Aurora was racing through Chicago's affluent Gold Coast neighborhood toward Noah's school, her mind racing. The pieces were starting to fit together: the threatened scholarship, the falsified login records, the sudden transfer plans. Someone was systematically trying to isolate Ethan, and they were willing to go to extraordinary lengths to do it. She pulled into the school's circular driveway, where luxury SUVs and foreign sports cars usually lined up for afternoon pickup. Catherine was waiting with Noah, her Hermes scarf fluttering in the breeze. "Aurora, something isn't right," Catherine said as soon as Aurora approached. "I called the Scholarship Foundation. They have no record of any problems with Noah's paperwork. Someone's deliberately interfering." Before Aurora could respond, her phone rang, a blocked number. Her hands trembling slightly, she answered. "Miss Matthews," a distorted voice said, "I trust you're beginning to understand the scope of your situation. Your son's education, your nursing license, your reputation, everything can disappear with a single phone call. Walk away from Ethan Crawford." In the Crawford Technologies building, Marcus Chen sat in his private office, staring at the damning evidence on his computer screen. Financial records, security footage, medical reports. A web of corruption that led straight to the top. The question wasn't whether he should act, but whether he would survive doing so. His office door opened, and Victoria Blackwood entered without knocking. "We need to talk," she said, her voice low and urgent, "about what really happened to Ethan." As the sun set over Chicago's skyline, casting golden reflections across the glass and steel towers, the players in this high-stakes drama moved like pieces on a chessboard. In his hospital room, Ethan Crawford's fingers twitched again, his consciousness fighting to break through the artificial barriers that held it captive. Dr. Chen, reviewing his latest scans, noticed something that made her blood run cold. The regular medications listed in his chart didn't match the traces she was finding in his system. Someone had been administering unauthorized drugs, keeping him under. She immediately called Aurora, who was just leaving Noah's school. "Get back here now," she said urgently. "And don't tell anyone you're coming. We have a serious problem." In the Crawford Technologies building, Ryan Crawford stood at his floor-to-ceiling windows, a glass of 30-year-old scotch in his hand, watching the city lights emerge. His phone buzzed with a message from an unlisted number. "We have a situation. The doctor knows." Meanwhile, Victoria Blackwood was in her private vault at Chicago's most exclusive bank, removing a small safety deposit box. Inside lay a USB drive and a handwritten letter from Ethan, dated the day before his accident. "If anything happens to me, give this to someone you trust, someone who cares more about truth than money." As night fell over the city, Aurora rushed back to St. Luke's, unaware that she was being followed by a black SUV with tinted windows. In his hospital room, Ethan's brain activity began spiking erratically, as if his consciousness was fighting to break free from its chemical prison. The pieces were in motion, the stakes impossibly high. Money, power, and loyalty were about to collide in a way that would shake Chicago's elite to their core. And at the center of it all lay a truth so dangerous that some would kill to keep it hidden, while others would risk everything to bring it to light. Dr. Chen, waiting in her office with the damning test results, made a decision. She reached for her phone and dialed a number she'd hoped never to use, her brother's private line at the FBI's white-collar crime division. The next 24 hours would change everything. Lives would be transformed, fortunes would shift, and the true price of power would be revealed. But first, Aurora had to make it back to the hospital alive, carrying the weight of her son's future and Ethan's life in her hands. As she navigated through Chicago's glittering streets, past luxury boutiques and five-star hotels, Aurora's mind raced. The threatening calls, the manipulated records, Noah's scholarship, it all pointed to a conspiracy far larger than she'd imagined. But why? What had Ethan discovered that made him so dangerous to his own company? The answer lay in the complex web of lies and manipulation that had been woven around Crawford Technologies, a web that was about to unravel in spectacular fashion. The question wasn't just who would survive the fallout, but what would remain of their carefully constructed world when the truth finally emerged. The emergency alert system at St. Luke's blared to life at precisely 2:47 a.m., its harsh tone shattering the prestigious hospital's carefully maintained tranquility. Dr. Sarah Chen sprinted down the marble corridor toward Ethan Crawford's suite, her heart pounding against her ribs. The night security detail, hired specifically for the Crawford case, was mysteriously absent. Code Blue VIP Suite 1101. Code Blue VIP Suite 1101, the automated system announced through hidden speakers that usually played soft classical music. Aurora, who had been reviewing the evidence of unauthorized medications with Dr. Chen in a private consultation room, felt her blood turn to ice. They both knew what this meant. Someone had made their move. Bursting into Ethan's room, they found him convulsing violently. The state-of-the-art monitoring equipment screaming warnings. The Italian silk sheets were twisted around his body, and the Rolex watch he'd worn since admission had been removed, along with his patient ID bracelet. "He's crashing!" Dr. Chen shouted, rushing to the crash cart. "Aurora, start chest compressions." As Aurora positioned herself over Ethan's chest, she noticed something that made her pause for a crucial second, a tiny puncture mark on his neck, fresh and deliberate. Before she could point it out to Dr. Chen, Ethan's eyes flew open. Time seemed to stop. His gaze, sharp and alert, locked onto Aurora's face. Then, in a voice hoarse from months of disuse, he spoke 3 words that would change everything. "Trust the code." The machines flatlined. "Starting compressions," Aurora announced, her training taking over despite her shock. But as she pressed down on his chest, she felt something crinkle beneath his hospital gown, a piece of paper carefully taped to his skin. Dr. Chen worked frantically, administering medications and calling out orders. The crash team burst through the doors, pushing a cart worth more than most cars. But Aurora knew, with a certainty that defied explanation, that this wasn't a natural crisis. 43 minutes later, in the hushed opulence of the hospital's executive conference room, Aurora sat across from Jennifer Torres and 2 stone-faced men in expensive suits who had introduced themselves as hospital board members. "Walk us through it again," one of them demanded, his Patek Philippe watch glinting under the chandelier. Every detail. Aurora recounted the events mechanically, omitting only the paper she'd carefully palmed during the chaos. Her mind kept returning to Ethan's last words, "Trust the code." Meanwhile, in the Crawford Technologies building, Ryan Crawford was already in crisis mode. Standing in his penthouse office, he barked orders into a phone while Victoria Blackwood watched silently from the doorway. "I don't care what it costs," he hissed. "Clean it up. All of it. Now." "It's too late," Victoria said quietly, stepping into the room. "The FBI is already involved." Ryan's head snapped up. "What?" "Doctor, Chen's brother is a federal agent. He's been building a case for weeks." She placed a USB drive on his desk. "This is what Ethan found before his accident. The real reason you wanted him silenced." Before Ryan could respond, his private elevator chimed. Marcus Chen stepped out, followed by 2 federal agents in impeccable suits. "Ryan Crawford," one of them announced, "we need you to come with us." Back at St. Luke's, Aurora retreated to the staff locker room, a space that, like everything else in the hospital, spoke of money and privilege. Once alone, she carefully unfolded the paper she'd taken from Ethan's chest. It contained a series of numbers and what appeared to be random letters. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "The code opens more than doors. Meet me at the Drake Hotel, Suite 1923. Come alone. VB." Aurora's hands trembled as she changed out of her scrubs into the designer outfit she kept in her locker for parent-teacher conferences. The weight of what had just happened, Ethan's death, his last words, the mysterious code, pressed down on her like a physical force. She called Catherine, who answered on the first ring. "Noah's safe," her sister said before Aurora could speak. "We're at the lake house. The security team arrived 10 minutes ago." "Security team?" "They said they were sent by Victoria Blackwood." "Aurora, what's happening?" At the Drake Hotel, one of Chicago's most prestigious addresses, Aurora found Victoria Blackwood waiting in a suite that cost more per night than her monthly mortgage payment. The CFO's usual powerful presence was subdued, her designer suit slightly wrinkled. "Ethan knew this day would come," Victoria said without preamble. "That's why he created the contingency plan." "What contingency plan?" Victoria gestured to a laptop on the antique desk. "The code you found, it's not just numbers, it's an encryption key. Ethan built a backdoor into every system at Crawford Technologies, triggered by his own death. In exactly..." She checked her Cartier watch. 4 hours, every piece of evidence Ryan tried to bury will be automatically uploaded to the SEC, FBI, and major news outlets. Aurora sank into a velvet armchair. "But Ethan's dead." "Is he?" The question hung in the air like smoke. Victoria pressed a button on her phone and a hidden door in the wood-paneled wall slid open. Dr. Sarah Chen stepped through, followed by a man Aurora had never seen before, but whose face she knew from countless magazine covers and news reports. "Hello, Aurora," said the real Ethan Crawford. The man who had been in the hospital, the one who had just died, was a carefully chosen double, a terminally ill patient who had agreed to play the role in exchange for ensuring his family's financial security for generations. "The man who died tonight made his choice months ago," Ethan explained, his voice carrying the weight of guilt despite the necessity of the deception. He knew he had weeks to live. This way, his sacrifice meant something. Aurora's mind reeled. The implications were staggering. But why the elaborate scheme? Why not just go to the authorities? "Because Ryan's corruption went deeper than anyone suspected," Dr. Chen interjected. "He had people everywhere. The hospital board, the police, even the FBI. We needed irrefutable evidence, and we needed him to think he'd won." Suddenly, every luxury item in the room, the crystal chandeliers, the silk wallpaper, the priceless art, seemed to mock the human cost of wealth and power. A massive explosion rocked the building, shattering the floor-to-ceiling windows. As alarms blared and smoke filled the air, Aurora's phone lit up with breaking news alerts. Crawford Technologies' headquarters was on fire. "Right on schedule," Victoria said grimly. "Ryan's people are destroying evidence, but they don't know about the off-site servers." Ethan's face hardened. Now we move to phase 2. The next few hours would test everything Aurora thought she knew about right and wrong, about loyalty and betrayal, about the true cost of justice. The game wasn't over. It was merely entering its most dangerous phase. As emergency vehicles raced toward the burning skyscraper, their sirens reflecting off the glass and steel canyons of Chicago's financial district, Aurora realized there was no turning back. She was now part of something much bigger than herself, a battle for truth that would shake the foundations of the city's power structure. In her pocket, the paper with the code seemed to burn against her skin, a reminder that sometimes the biggest lies hide in plain sight, wrapped in luxury and privilege. The real question wasn't whether they would survive the night, but what kind of world they would wake up to in the morning. Through the shattered windows of the Drake Hotel suite, they watched as thick black smoke billowed into the night sky. The Crawford Technologies building, a monument to corporate power and innovation, was now a burning symbol of corruption exposed. Emergency vehicles converged on the scene, their lights creating a disco of red and blue against the surrounding building's glass facades. "We need to move," Ethan announced, his voice carrying the authority of someone used to making billion-dollar decisions. "Victoria, initiate Protocol Omega. Dr. Chen, make sure all medical records are secured. Aurora," he paused, turning to face her. "You have the most important role of all." Before he could elaborate, multiple phones buzzed simultaneously. Breaking news alerts flooded their screens. Breaking: Crawford Technologies. CEO Ryan Crawford arrested on multiple federal charges. The accompanying photo showed Ryan being led out of the building in handcuffs, his Armani suit covered in soot, his usually perfect hair disheveled. "That's not the end of it," Victoria warned, her fingers flying over her laptop keyboard. Ryan had contingency plans of his own. Already there are reports of suspicious trading activity across all our major accounts. Dr. Chen's phone rang. Her brother at the FBI. Her face grew increasingly grave as she listened. "They found something in the sub-basement," she reported after hanging up. "A private server room with evidence of massive data manipulation, but someone triggered a magnetic pulse device. They're trying to salvage what they can." Ethan nodded grimly. Ryan always was thorough, but he forgot one thing. He turned to Aurora. "The code I gave you, it's not just an encryption key, it's a blockchain entry point. Every transaction, every document, every piece of communication in the company for the past 5 years has been secretly recorded on a distributed ledger." Ryan thought he was covering his tracks, but he was actually creating an unalterable record of his own crimes. "And I'm supposed to believe you're the hero in all this?" Aurora challenged, her moral compass spinning. "You let an innocent man die tonight as part of your plan." "Marcus Wu was already dying," Dr. Chen interjected softly. "Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. He approached us after learning about Ryan's corruption. His last wish was to make his death mean something." Victoria's laptop chimed. "The uploads have started. Every major news outlet in the country is about to receive documented proof of Ryan's embezzlement, corporate espionage, and—" She paused, her face paling. "The attempted murder of the real Ethan Crawford." Suddenly, the hotel room's lights flickered and died. In the darkness, they could hear the heavy tread of boots in the corridor outside. "They're here," Ethan said calmly, pressing a hidden panel in the wall. A section of wooden paneling slid aside, revealing a narrow passage. The service corridors. Every major hotel in Chicago has them, a relic from the Prohibition era. "Aurora, you need to make a choice right now. Come with us and help expose the full truth, or walk away. But know that Ryan's people won't let you just disappear. You know too much." Aurora thought of Noah, safely hidden away at the lake house. She thought of her late husband, who had always taught their son that doing the right thing mattered more than being safe. She thought of Marcus Wu, who had given his life to help expose the truth. "I'm in," she said firmly, "but I need to know everything. No more secrets." As they hurried through the hidden passage, the sound of splintering wood echoed from the suite they'd just abandoned. Ethan quickly explained that the code she carried was the key to a digital vault containing evidence of crimes far beyond mere corporate fraud. Ryan wasn't just stealing money, he revealed as they descended a narrow spiral staircase. He was selling classified technology to foreign powers, technology that could change the balance of global power. "That's why he tried to kill me. I discovered the truth and built a failsafe into the system." They emerged in a private garage beneath the hotel, where a matte black Rolls-Royce Phantom waited. As they slid into its bulletproof interior, Aurora realized that the world she'd known, of hospital shifts and parent-teacher conferences, of ordinary concerns and predictable problems, was gone forever. The car purred to life, its powerful engine nearly silent. As they pulled out into the Chicago night, Aurora looked back at the burning tower, its flames reflecting off the river like a second sunset. The city she'd always known was transforming before her eyes, its glittering surface cracking to reveal the darkness beneath. But perhaps that's what real change looked like, a violent metamorphosis that destroyed the old to make way for the new. The question was, what would emerge from the ashes of this gilded cage they'd all been living in? Dawn broke over Lake Michigan, painting the water in shades of gold and platinum. The Rolls-Royce Phantom glided to a stop before an ultra-modern safe house nestled in Chicago's North Shore, a glass and steel masterpiece that seemed to float above the waterline. For Aurora Matthews, it felt like stepping into another world. "Welcome to the contingency plan," Ethan said, leading them through a biometric security checkpoint that probably cost more than her house. "Ryan never knew about this place. I bought it through a series of shell companies using cryptocurrency." The interior was a minimalist's dream, all clean lines and hidden technology. Floor-to-ceiling windows offered panoramic views of the lake, while state-of-the-art security systems hummed quietly in the background. But Aurora barely noticed the luxury surrounding her. Her mind was on Noah, and the weight of the decisions she'd made that would forever change their lives. "Your son is safe," Victoria assured her, sensing her anxiety. "The lake house where he's staying with Catherine is actually owned by my family. It's off the grid and protected by former Special Forces operators." Dr. Chen was already setting up a mobile command center in what should have been the dining room. Multiple holographic displays showed news feeds, market data, and security camera footage from across the city. "Ryan's arrest is making waves. The stock market hasn't even opened yet, and Crawford Technologies shares are being decimated in pre-market trading." Aurora watched the numbers fall, each percentage point representing millions of dollars vanishing into thin air. How many innocent people are going to lose their jobs over this? None, Ethan replied firmly. I've been preparing for this moment for months. Every legitimate employee's job is protected by a separate corporate entity. The only ones who will suffer are the ones who chose to be complicit in Ryan's crimes. Suddenly, one of the screens flashed red. Victoria's fingers flew across her keyboard. We've got movement. Someone's accessing the blockchain with a variant of the encryption key. That's impossible, Ethan muttered, joining her at the terminal. Unless... His face darkened. Marcus Chen. He must have made a copy before turning on Ryan. The revelation hit Aurora like a physical blow. The lawyer's betrayal meant their safe harbor might not be safe for long, but it was the look on Ethan's face, a mixture of hurt and resignation, that struck her most deeply. Even at the highest levels of wealth and power, trust was still the most valuable currency. We need to move the evidence, Victoria announced. The distributed ledger is secure, but they could still corrupt the verification nodes if they have enough computing power. Use my access codes, Ethan instructed. Transfer everything to the quantum backup. Aurora watched them work, feeling simultaneously crucial to their plans and completely out of her depth. She was a nurse, trained to heal bodies and comfort the sick. Now she was caught in the middle of a high-stakes technology war, where the weapons were lines of code, and the battlefield was digital. A gentle hand touched her shoulder. Dr. Chen stood beside her, offering a cup of coffee in a hand-painted porcelain cup that probably cost more than Aurora's monthly salary. It's overwhelming, isn't it? When I first discovered what was happening at the hospital, I felt the same way. How did you handle it? I remembered why I became a doctor in the first place, to help people. Sometimes that means doing more than just treating symptoms. Sometimes you have to cure the disease at its source. Their conversation was interrupted by a security alert. Catherine's face appeared on one of the screens, her expression tense. We've got company at the lake house. Black SUVs, no plates. Initiate evacuation protocol, Victoria ordered immediately. The helicopter is already fueled and waiting. Aurora's heart clenched. Noah. We'll be fine, Ethan assured her. The security team knows what they're doing, but we need to focus on our part now. The encryption key you're carrying, it's time to use it. He led her to a hidden room behind a rotating panel of exotic hardwood. Inside was a single computer terminal, its design unlike anything Aurora had ever seen. This is a quantum computer, Ethan explained. One of only 3 in private hands in the world. With it, we can break through Ryan's final firewalls and expose everything. As Aurora pulled out the crumpled paper with the code, her hands trembled. Why me? Why trust a nurse with all this? Because you were the only one who saw me as a person, not an asset, Ethan replied softly. When I was pretending to be in a coma, you talked to me, cared for me, treated me with dignity. In a world where everything and everyone can be bought, that kind of genuine compassion is priceless. The moment was interrupted by Victoria's urgent call. We've got bigger problems. The SEC is freezing all Crawford Technologies assets. Thousands of employees won't get their paychecks tomorrow. Transfer 10 million from my personal accounts, Ethan ordered without hesitation. Make sure every employee gets paid while this sorts out. Aurora stared at him, struck by how casually he'd just given away more money than she'd see in several lifetimes, yet his focus remained on protecting his workers, not his wealth. The quantum computer hummed to life as Aurora input the encryption key. On the screens above, data began flowing like digital rivers, evidence of years of corruption, manipulation, and crimes that went far beyond simple corporate fraud. My God, Dr. Chen breathed, reading the documents as they appeared. Ryan wasn't just selling technology. He was using Crawford Technologies' AI systems to manipulate global markets. The amount of wealth that's been stolen is nothing compared to the lives that have been ruined, Ethan finished grimly. But that ends today. A new alert flashed across the screens. Catherine and Noah had been safely evacuated from the lake house. Seconds later, security cameras showed Ryan's men breaking in, only to find an empty building. Relief flooded through Aurora, followed immediately by a new wave of concern. Her son was safe, but his life would never be the same. The comfortable middle-class existence she'd built for them, while modest compared to the wealth surrounding her now, had been fundamentally altered. As if reading her thoughts, Ethan spoke softly. I know this isn't the life you chose, Aurora, but sometimes life chooses us for things we never imagined we could do. The quantum computer chimed. indicating the upload was complete. On screens across the world, the truth about Crawford Technologies was beginning to emerge. Stock markets faltered, news alerts buzzed, and the carefully constructed edifice of lies began to crumble. Victoria's phone rang, Marcus Chen calling from federal custody. She put it on speaker. "It's over, Marcus," she said before he could speak. "We have everything." "You don't understand," he replied, his voice urgent. "Ryan wasn't working alone. There's a whole network of—" The line went dead. In the ensuing silence, they all looked at each other, understanding dawning in their eyes. This wasn't the end of their struggle. It was merely the beginning of a larger battle. "I need to see Noah," Aurora said firmly. It wasn't a request. Ethan nodded. "The helicopter will take you to him. But first, you need to understand what happens next. Because after today, none of our lives will ever be the same." As if to emphasize his point, the screen showed Crawford Technologies' headquarters, still smoldering against the morning sky. The physical symbol of power and corruption was in ruins. But the real work of rebuilding, both the company and their lives, lay ahead. Dr. Chen's phone buzzed with a message from her FBI brother. They found something in the rubble of Ryan's office, something that changes everything we thought we knew about his plans. Aurora looked at the encryption key in her hand, then at the quantum computer still processing data, and finally at the view of Lake Michigan stretching to the horizon. She thought about Noah, about the comfortable life she'd worked so hard to build, and about the moment she'd decided to trust her instincts about Ethan Crawford. "Whatever comes next," she said, squaring her shoulders, "we face it together." Ethan smiled, the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Together," he agreed. "But first, we need to prepare for the storm that's coming, because what we've uncovered here, it's going to shake the foundations of power in every major city in the world." Victoria's fingers flew across her keyboard once more. The quantum computer's finished its initial analysis. "You need to see this." She projected a holographic display in the center of the room, showing a complex web of connections between Crawford Technologies and dozens of other major corporations. "These aren't just business relationships," Dr. Chen observed, studying the intricate pattern. "These are systematic manipulations of global markets, healthcare systems, even government contracts." Aurora stepped closer to the display, recognizing several prominent hospital chains in the network. "St. Luke's isn't the only hospital involved, is it?" "No," Ethan confirmed grimly. "Ryan was using our AI technology to manipulate medical research data, influence drug trials, even control patient treatment recommendations. The implications for public health are staggering." The revelation hit Aurora like a physical blow. As a nurse, she'd devoted her life to helping people, but now she wondered how many of her actions had unknowingly served a darker purpose. How many treatment protocols had been influenced not by medical science, but by corporate greed? A new alert flashed across the screens. The helicopter carrying Noah and Catherine had landed safely at a private airstrip in Michigan. Aurora felt her shoulders relax slightly, but the relief was short-lived. "We've got movement in the financial markets," Victoria announced. "Someone's implementing fail-safe protocols we didn't know about. Entire sectors are starting to destabilize." "Dr. Itu," Chen's brother called again, this time with even more disturbing news. "The evidence from Ryan's office? It's a blueprint for something called Project Oracle, an AI system designed to predict and manipulate global events on an unprecedented scale." That's what he was really after, Ethan realized, his face paling. The technology theft, the market manipulation, it was all just a testing ground for something much bigger. Aurora watched as new data streamed across the screens, each revelation more shocking than the last. The comfortable world she'd known was dissolving, replaced by a reality where nothing was quite what it seemed. Yet somehow, in the midst of this chaos, she felt herself growing stronger, more determined. "We need to move," Victoria urged. "The safe house location could be compromised if Marcus shared the blockchain data with others." Ethan nodded, pressing his palm against a hidden scanner. A section of the floor silently slid aside, revealing a spiral staircase descending into darkness. "The contingency within the contingency," he explained. "Sometimes the best way to fight corruption isn't from above, but from below." As they descended the stairs, Aurora thought about Noah, about the world he would inherit. The path ahead was uncertain, filled with dangers she never imagined she'd face. But she was no longer just a nurse caught in events beyond her control. She was becoming something more, someone stronger. The staircase led to a bunker that looked like a military command center, crossed with a luxury yacht's interior. Walls of screens displayed real-time data from around the world, while sophisticated communications equipment hummed softly in the background. "This is where we make our stand," Ethan announced. "From here we can coordinate with trustworthy elements in law enforcement, reach out to ethical hackers who can help protect the blockchain, and begin the process of untangling Ryan's web of corruption." Dr. Chen was already setting up her medical equipment in one corner. "We need to be prepared for anything. If they're willing to kill to keep this secret, they won't stop just because we've exposed part of the truth." Victoria established secure communications with their allies around the world. Ethical investors, investigative journalists, and tech experts who had been quietly gathering evidence of their own. Aurora found herself at a workstation, surrounded by more computing power than she'd ever imagined. On one screen, she could see Noah and Catherine settling into their secure location. On another, news channels were beginning to report on the growing financial crisis. And on a third, the quantum computer continued to unravel the full scope of Project Oracle. "Your medical background might be more valuable than ever," Ethan said, joining her at the station. "You understand how systems work, how different parts interact. We're not just fighting individuals now. We're fighting a disease that's infected the entire global system." The metaphor struck home. Aurora had always approached patient care holistically, understanding that symptoms in one area could indicate problems in another. Now she needed to apply that same thinking on a much larger scale. "Then let's treat it like a disease," she said firmly. "Identify the infection, isolate the cause, and implement a treatment plan. But first we protect those most vulnerable, starting with the hospital patients whose care has been compromised." Ethan nodded approvingly. "That's exactly the kind of thinking we need. Victoria, can you get us access to St. Luke's medical records?" "Already on it," Victoria replied, "but we'll need to move fast. Once they realize we're looking at patient data, they'll try to lock us out or corrupt the files." The bunker hummed with activity as they began their work. Above them, Chicago continued its normal rhythm, unaware that in a hidden command center beneath the lakeshore, a small group of people was fighting to expose a conspiracy that touched every aspect of modern life. Aurora thought about how far she'd come from her ordinary life just days ago. The woman who had worried about paying Noah's school fees was now helping to unravel a global conspiracy. The nurse who had carefully tended to a coma patient was now part of a team fighting corruption at the highest levels. But perhaps the biggest transformation wasn't in her circumstances, but in her understanding of power itself. True power, she was learning, wasn't in the trappings of wealth that surrounded them, but in the choice to stand up for what was right, no matter the cost. The quantum computer's alarm shattered the focused silence of the underground command center, its urgent tone echoing off marble walls and crystal light fixtures. Victoria's hands froze over her keyboard as streams of data flooded every screen in the bunker. "They're accessing Project Oracle," she announced, her voice tight with tension. "Multiple entry points, military-grade encryption. This isn't just Ryan's people. This is something bigger." Ethan rushed to her station, his Savile Row suit jacket abandoned hours ago, Italian silk sleeves rolled up to his elbows. "Show me the access patterns." The holographic display erupted with new connection points, forming a web that stretched across continents. Red lines pulsed between major financial centers, New York, London, Tokyo, Frankfurt, each representing unauthorized access attempts to Crawford Technologies' deepest systems. "It's not just about money anymore, Doctor," Chen said, studying the pattern. "These access points match known locations of major intelligence agencies. They're all trying to gain control of the AI." Aurora watched the digital assault unfold, understanding now why Ryan had been willing to kill to keep this secret. Project Oracle wasn't just a program, it was a weapon, one that could predict and manipulate global events with frightening accuracy. "We need to shut it down," she said firmly. "All of it. If we do that, the entire global financial system could collapse," Victoria warned. "Markets worldwide are already unstable from the revelations about Crawford Technologies. A complete shutdown could trigger a depression worse than 1929. Before anyone could respond, the bunker's security system blared another warning. On the surveillance feeds, they watched as a fleet of black SUVs converged on the safe house above, while helicopters approached from across Lake Michigan. "Federal agents, Doctor," Chen confirmed after a quick call to her brother. But he doesn't know which agency they're really working for. His clearance was just revoked. Ethan's face hardened. They're not here to arrest us. They're here to secure Project Oracle. The first explosions rocked the safe house above them, dust falling from the bunker's reinforced ceiling. The luxury furniture and priceless art that had decorated the modern mansion would soon be reduced to rubble. "We've got incoming cyber attacks," Victoria reported, her fingers flying across multiple keyboards. "They're trying to breach the quantum computer's defenses. These algorithms, they're military grade." Aurora's phone buzzed, a message from Catherine. "They're here too, different teams, same objective, Noah's scared." The sound of boots on the stairs leading to the bunker echoed through the ventilation system. They had minutes, maybe less. "We need to make a choice," Ethan announced, his voice cutting through the chaos. "We can transfer Project Oracle's core systems to a secure location, preserve the financial markets, and try to ensure it doesn't fall into the wrong hands, or we can burn it all down," Aurora finished. "Destroy the AI, expose everything, and deal with the consequences." The weight of the decision pressed down on them like a physical force. Outside, the sounds of the assault grew closer. The quantum computer continued to process Project Oracle's data, revealing the true scope of its capabilities: market manipulation, election interference, social engineering on a global scale. "The encryption key," Ethan said suddenly, turning to Aurora. "The one I gave you. It's not just for accessing the system, it's a kill switch, a complete nuclear option that would expose every secret, every manipulation, every crime, and then destroy Project Oracle completely." Victoria's screens flashed with new warnings. "They're breaking through the outer firewalls. We have maybe 5 minutes before they breach the quantum computer's defenses." The bunker shook with another explosion, closer this time. On the security feeds, they could see teams of heavily armed men moving through the wreckage of the safe house above. Aurora thought of Noah, of the world he would inherit. A world where AI systems could manipulate entire populations, where truth itself was becoming malleable. She thought of her patients at St. Luke's, unknowing pawns in a game of global manipulation. "If we destroy it," she asked, "what happens to everyone's money, their homes, their savings?" "The truth comes out," Ethan replied grimly. "About everything. Every market manipulation, every artificial bubble, every stolen fortune. The system crashes, but this time with full transparency about why. The wealthy lose their illegal gains, but ordinary people's basic assets would be protected by regulatory safeguards." 3 minutes until breach, Victoria announced. Dr. Chen's phone lit up with a message from her brother. "Getting reports of similar facilities worldwide, all under assault. This is coordinated." The choice crystallized in Aurora's mind. She pulled out the crumpled paper with the encryption key, smoothing it against a marble counter worth more than her car. "No more manipulation," she said firmly. "No more lies. The truth matters more than wealth." Ethan nodded, something like pride flickering in his eyes. "Victoria, initiate Protocol Phoenix. Dr. Chen, alert your brother. Tell him to protect the regulatory firewalls. We're going to need them." Aurora approached the quantum computer's main terminal, the encryption key steady in her hands. Behind her, Victoria began transferring legitimate account data to secure servers, while Dr. Chen coordinated with her FBI contacts to prepare for the aftermath. The sound of cutting torches came from the bunker's main door. They were almost out of time. "Once you enter that key," Ethan warned, "there's no going back. The world changes forever." Aurora thought of the hospital room where she'd first met Ethan, of the complex web of lies and power that had brought them to this moment. She thought of Noah and the kind of world she wanted him to grow up in. Her fingers flew across the keyboard, entering the complex sequence of characters. Above them, the assault teams breached the last physical barrier. The bunker's reinforced door began to glow red around the edges as cutting torches went to work. 30 seconds until system breach," Victoria called out. Aurora's finger hovered over the enter key. In that moment, everything hung in the balance. Wealth, power, truth, lies, the very foundation of the modern world. She pressed enter. The quantum computer hummed, processing the command. Across the globe, Project Oracle's systems began to unlock, releasing their secrets into the digital wild. Markets froze, trades halted, as decades of manipulation were exposed in an instant. The bunker door exploded inward in a shower of sparks and metal. Armed men in tactical gear poured through the opening, weapons raised. "Step away from the computer," a voice commanded, but it was too late. On screens around the world, the truth was already spreading. Project Oracle's core systems initiated their self-destruct sequences, taking with them the ability to manipulate global events with AI precision. The armed teams secured the bunker, but their radios crackled with urgent updates from their superiors. Something was happening in the financial districts. The carefully constructed house of cards was falling. Through it all, Aurora stood at the terminal, watching as the system she'd helped destroy took down the corrupt empire built upon it. Alarms blared from every computer as markets reacted to the flood of revelations. "You don't understand what you've done," one of the tactical team leaders said, his voice shocked. "The whole system—" "No," Ethan interrupted, standing tall despite the weapons trained on him. "We understand exactly what we've done. We've given the world back its free will." Victoria's screens showed the cascade of effects spreading across the globe. Stock markets suspended trading as the truth about years of AI manipulation came to light. News organizations began reporting on the massive data dump that exposed corruption at the highest levels of business and government. "Get ready," Dr. Chen warned, looking at her phone. "This is just the beginning." The tactical teams received new orders through their earpieces. Their weapons lowered slightly as the magnitude of what was happening became clear. The world they'd been sent to protect was already transforming. Aurora's phone buzzed one last time, a message from Catherine. "Noah's safe. The teams here just got new orders. They're standing down. What did you do?" In the hours that followed, the full impact of their actions would begin to unfold. The global financial system would reel from the revelations, but it wouldn't collapse. Instead, something new would emerge from the ashes of Project Oracle, something more transparent, more honest. The wealthy would lose their ability to manipulate markets with AI precision. Some fortunes would crumble as their foundations of manipulation were exposed, but ordinary people's savings would be protected by the regulatory safeguards they'd helped preserve. As dawn broke over Lake Michigan, Aurora stood with Ethan, Victoria, and Dr. Chen, watching the sun rise on a changed world. The safe house above them was in ruins, its luxury reduced to rubble. But perhaps that was fitting, a physical representation of the old system's fall. "What happens now?" Aurora asked, thinking of Noah and the uncertain future ahead. "Now," Ethan replied, "we rebuild, not with AI manipulation and hidden power, but with transparency and truth. It won't be easy, but it will be real." The quantum computer behind them, its task complete, fell silent for the last time. Project Oracle was gone, taking with it the power to control global events through artificial intelligence. The world would have to learn to move forward without its hidden manipulations. The tactical teams received new orders through their encrypted communications channels. Their body language shifted as the magnitude of the situation became clear. Several lowered their weapons completely, while others moved to secure the perimeter against potential outside threats. "Ma'am," one of the team leaders addressed Aurora, removing his tactical helmet to reveal a weathered face with kind eyes. "We just received confirmation from the highest levels. Project Oracle's exposure has triggered contingency protocols we didn't even know existed. The president is about to address the nation." Victoria's screens showed news feeds from around the world. Market trading had been suspended in every major financial center. Emergency meetings were being called in capitals across the globe. The carefully constructed facade of normal market operations was crumbling, revealing the artificial intelligence that had been pulling the strings. "Look at this," Dr. Chen called out, pointing to one of the monitors. The crawler at the bottom of a news channel reported that several major hedge funds had already collapsed, their AI-driven trading algorithms rendered useless without Project Oracle's manipulative capabilities. Ethan moved to a secure terminal, his fingers flying across the keyboard. The regulatory firewalls are holding, basic banking functions, personal savings accounts, retirement funds, they're all protected. The system is damaged, but not destroyed. A new alert flashed across Victoria's main screen. "Ryan Crawford's been found dead in his cell," she announced grimly. "Initial reports suggest suicide, but—" "No," Ethan interrupted, his voice hard. "That's them tying up loose ends." Ryan knew too much about who was really behind Project Oracle. The bunker's advanced communication system crackled to life, with a direct feed from Dr. Chen's brother at the FBI. "You need to see this," his voice came through clearly, despite the encryption. "We're finding similar facilities in London, Tokyo, Dubai, all connected to Project Oracle, all now exposed. Aurora watched as the screen showed live footage from financial districts around the world. In London, traders stood in shocked clusters outside the stock exchange. In Tokyo, executives bowed deeply before cameras as they apologized for their roles in the deception. In New York, crowds gathered in front of banking headquarters, demanding answers. The AI didn't just manipulate markets, Victoria explained, analyzing the flood of data. It influenced elections, shaped public opinion, even determined which medical treatments would be approved or denied. The scope is staggering. One of the tactical team members approached with a satellite phone. "Mr. Crawford, the Treasury Secretary is requesting to speak with you directly." As Ethan took the call, Aurora's attention was drawn to a different screen, one showing the entrance to St. Luke's Hospital. News crews were gathering, their cameras trained on the luxury medical center that had played such a crucial role in the story. "They're going to want to talk to you," Dr. Chen said softly, following Aurora's gaze. "So you're the nurse who helped expose everything. They'll call you a hero." Aurora shook her head. "I'm not a hero, I just couldn't let the lies continue. Not when I understood what was really happening to my patients, to everyone." The bunker's lighting flickered as power shifted to emergency systems. Above them, the ruined safehouse creaked and groaned, its luxury reduced to rubble by the assault. It seemed fitting, the physical destruction of the wealthy facade that had hidden so much corruption. Ethan finished his call with the Treasury Secretary, his face grave but determined. "They want us in Washington, all of us. There are congressional hearings being organized. The world wants answers." "And Noah?" Aurora asked, thinking of her son still in hiding. "Is already being brought to a secure location in D.C., Ethan assured her. "Catherine, too. They'll be protected, not as prisoners but as vital witnesses to history." Victoria's screens showed the cascading effects of Project Oracle's destruction continuing to spread. Cryptocurrencies surged and crashed as algorithms failed. Real estate markets froze as AI-driven property valuations went offline. But underneath the chaos, something new was emerging. Genuine market forces, real human decisions, authentic economic activity. "We should document everything, Doctor," Chen suggested, already starting to record their version of events. "The world needs to understand not just what happened, but why we chose to expose it." The tactical team leader who had first lowered his weapon approached again. "Transport is ready. We need to move you to a secure facility. The streets, they're getting chaotic as the news spreads." Through the bunker's remaining surveillance cameras, they could see crowds gathering along Chicago's Magnificent Mile. The luxury boutiques and high-end shops that had once symbolized wealth and success now stood as monuments to a system built on artificial manipulation. "It's strange," Aurora mused, gathering what few possessions she had with her. All this began in a hospital room, with a billionaire everyone thought was in a coma, and it's ending with the biggest wake-up call in history. Ethan smiled slightly at her words. "Not ending," he corrected. "Beginning. What we've done here today, it's not destruction, it's reconstruction. The world needed to wake up from Project Oracle's artificial dreams." As they prepared to leave the bunker, Aurora took one last look at the quantum computer that had helped them expose the truth. Its sleek housing, worth millions, now seemed less impressive than the simple paper with the encryption key she'd used to change the world. The tactical team surrounded them as they made their way through the ruined safehouse above. Sunlight streamed through broken windows, catching on shattered crystal and scattered debris. The trappings of wealth lay broken, but something more valuable had been saved: the truth. 3 months after the fall of Project Oracle, Aurora Matthews stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her new office in Washington, D.C. The view of the Capitol dome reminded her daily of the dramatic congressional hearings where she, Ethan, Victoria, and Dr. Chen had testified about the AI system that had secretly manipulated global events. The media had dubbed it the Oracle Revelation, and its aftershocks were still reshaping the world. Her office, while elegant, was deliberately modest compared to the opulent surroundings she'd encountered during the crisis. As the newly appointed head of the Medical Ethics Oversight Committee, she'd insisted on functionality over luxury. The position had been created in the wake of the revelations about healthcare manipulation, and Aurora had been the unanimous choice to lead it. "Your next appointment is here," her assistant announced through the intercom. "The representatives from St. Luke's Hospital." Aurora smoothed her silk blazer, a gift from Victoria, and turned to face her past. The hospital's new board of directors had requested this meeting to discuss the sweeping reforms being implemented across the healthcare system. The changes had been dramatic but necessary. After Project Oracle's exposure, investigators had uncovered how deeply the AI had infiltrated medical decision-making. Treatment protocols, drug trials, even patient diagnoses had been influenced by algorithms designed to maximize profit rather than healing. "Send them in," Aurora responded, her voice steady. As the board members filed in, she noticed their subdued demeanor. Gone was the arrogant wealth worship that had once characterized St. Luke's leadership. The hospital's transformation was just one small part of the larger changes sweeping through society. Meanwhile, across town, Ethan Crawford sat in his new office at the rebuilt Crawford Technologies headquarters. The company had emerged from the crisis transformed, its focus now on developing ethical AI systems with transparent oversight. The sleek building still spoke of success, but its new design emphasized openness and accountability rather than intimidation and power. "The latest numbers are in," Victoria announced, entering with a tablet. She'd stayed on as CFO, her expertise crucial in rebuilding the company's legitimate operations. "The ethical investment fund is outperforming expectations. Turns out there's a real appetite for genuine, non-manipulated market growth." Ethan nodded, studying the holographic display showing the company's new projects. "And the regulatory compliance? Perfect scores across all metrics. Dr. Chen's medical ethics protocols are being implemented industry-wide. The healthcare AI division is particularly strong." The mention of Dr. Chen brought a smile to Ethan's face. She had emerged as one of the leading voices in medical AI ethics, her experience during the crisis lending weight to her reforms. Her brother at the FBI had been promoted to lead a new task force dedicated to preventing AI manipulation of financial markets. A notification popped up on Ethan's screen, a reminder of tonight's dinner with Aurora and Noah. The relationship that had begun in a hospital room had evolved into something neither of them had expected. Not romance. Their bond was deeper than that. They were partners in a mission to rebuild trust in a world that had lost its way. Noah had adapted to their new life with remarkable resilience. The trauma of those dangerous days had been balanced by the pride of knowing his mother had helped save millions from invisible manipulation. His new school, chosen for its ethical leadership program rather than its prestige, had become a model for educational reform in the post-Oracle world. In Chicago, the former Crawford Mansion had been converted into a research center dedicated to studying the ethical implications of artificial intelligence. The luxury that had once served as a facade for corruption now housed scholars and scientists working to prevent future abuses of technology. Catherine had found her own role in the new reality, using her experience to counsel other families affected by the Oracle revelation. The support network she'd built helped people cope with the dramatic changes in their lives as the artificial prosperity of the AI era adjusted to genuine market forces. The investigation into Ryan Crawford's death had revealed connections to a shadow network of power brokers who had helped create Project Oracle. One by one, they were being exposed and brought to justice. Marcus Chen, turning state's evidence, had provided crucial testimony that helped unravel the conspiracy. Aurora's phone buzzed with a message from her congressional liaison. The healthcare reform bill she'd helped draft was gaining support. It would establish unprecedented transparency in medical decision-making and ensure that AI systems served patients rather than profits. "Dr. Matthews," her assistant's voice interrupted her thoughts, "there's a situation at the monitoring center you should see." The monitoring center, established to detect any attempts to recreate Project Oracle's capabilities, occupied a secure floor below her office. Aurora took the private elevator down, her security clearance granting her access to the facility that represented humanity's determination to prevent another Oracle. The center hummed with activity, its screens displaying real-time analysis of global AI systems. A team of ethical hackers, led by some of the same people who had helped expose Project Oracle, worked tirelessly to maintain the integrity of the world's digital infrastructure. "We caught this, attempting to initialize in a server farm in Singapore," the lead analyst explained, showing her a fragment of code that bore uncomfortable similarities to Project Oracle's core functions. Aurora studied the code, remembering the encryption key that had changed everything. "Notify Ethan and Victoria," she instructed, And get Dr. Chen on secure video conference. We need to contain this now. The world was still adjusting to life without artificial manipulation. Markets had stabilized at more realistic levels. Some fortunes had crumbled, while others had emerged stronger, built on genuine value rather than AI-driven speculation. The transformation hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary. Later that evening, Aurora sat with Ethan, Noah, and their extended family of allies in the private dining room of a restaurant that emphasized ethical sourcing over excessive luxury. As they shared updates and plans, she reflected on how their lives had changed. The wealth that surrounded them now felt different, earned rather than manipulated, used for progress rather than power. The expensive wine in their glasses represented success achieved through transparency and innovation, not algorithmic manipulation and corruption. To truth, Ethan proposed a toast, lifting his glass. To truth, they echoed, each understanding the full weight of that simple word. As the evening wound down, Aurora's phone lit up with a news alert. Another major corporation had voluntarily submitted to ethical AI oversight, adopting the transparent protocols developed by Crawford Technologies. The transformation they'd started was continuing to spread. Noah, now enrolled in a STEM program focused on ethical technology, was thriving. His experiences had shaped his desire to ensure technology served humanity rather than controlled it. The scholarship fund Ethan had established in Marcus Wu's name was helping other students pursue similar goals. The next morning would bring new challenges. There would always be those who sought to recreate Project Oracle's power, who believed that controlling markets and minds was their right. But now there was a network of guardians in place, people who understood the importance of genuine human choice and authentic progress. Aurora's new office might not have had the marble floors and crystal chandeliers of St. Luke's VIP wing, but it had something more valuable: purpose. The view of the Capitol dome reminded her daily of the responsibility they all carried to prevent another Oracle from rising from the ashes of the old system. Victoria's financial monitoring systems, Dr. Chen's medical ethics protocols, and Ethan's transparent AI development framework had become global standards. The world was learning to progress without hidden manipulation, to succeed through innovation rather than control. The Oracle revelation had cost them their innocence about the power of technology, but it had given them something more valuable: the chance to build a future based on truth. The price had been high, but the alternative, allowing Project Oracle to continue its invisible dominance, would have been infinitely higher. As Aurora prepared for another day of protecting that hard-won truth, she thought about the nurse she'd been, caring for a billionaire she thought was in a coma. The path from that hospital room to her current role had been extraordinary, but it had always been guided by the same principle: doing what was right, regardless of the cost. The sun rose over Washington, its light touching the Capitol dome before spreading to the city below. Another day in the post-Oracle world began, carrying with it the promise and responsibility of genuine human progress. The future was uncertain, but it was real, and that made all the difference. 5 years later, the morning sun streamed through the crystalline windows of the Crawford Institute for Ethical Innovation, casting prismatic patterns across the main atrium's marble floor. Aurora Matthews stood at the podium, addressing the graduating class of the Institute's first Medical Ethics and AI Governance program. Behind her, a wall of screens displayed live feeds from similar ceremonies, taking place at partner institutions around the world. 5 years ago, she began, her voice carrying clearly through the state-of-the-art acoustic system, we faced a choice between comfortable lies and difficult truths. Today, as you prepare to take your places as guardians of ethical innovation, I want you to remember that choice is never just about technology. It's about humanity. In the front row, Noah sat beside Ethan Crawford, both wearing proud smiles. At 18, Noah was preparing to start his own journey at MIT's Department of Ethical Computing, his experiences during the Oracle crisis having shaped his passion for responsible technology. The scholarship foundation named after Marcus Wu had expanded to support hundreds of students pursuing similar paths. Dr. Sarah Chen, now the WHO's Director of Medical AI Ethics, watched from a reserved section with Victoria Blackwood. Under their combined leadership, the global healthcare system had been transformed. AI still played a crucial role in medical research and treatment, but with transparent oversight and uncompromising ethical standards. Crawford Technologies had emerged from its transformation, as a different kind of industry leader. Instead of market manipulation and hidden control, the company now specialized in developing transparent AI systems that enhanced human decision-making without replacing it. The luxury of their headquarters remained, but it now symbolized success achieved through innovation rather than deception. The world you inherit, Aurora continued, gesturing to the global feeds behind her, is not perfect, but it is honest. The challenges we face are real, not artificially generated. The solutions we develop come from human insight and ethical innovation, not algorithmic manipulation. In the years since Project Oracle's fall, society had adjusted to a new normal. Some fortunes had diminished, while others had grown through legitimate means. The global economy had found a more sustainable balance, built on actual value rather than AI-driven illusions. The transition hadn't been easy, but it had been necessary and ultimately healing. Catherine's support network had evolved into an international organization dedicated to helping people navigate the ethical challenges of an AI-enabled world. Her work had shown that human compassion and technological progress could coexist and strengthen each other. The former St. Luke's Hospital, now the Center for Ethical Healthcare Innovation, had become a model for medical institutions worldwide. Its luxurious facilities still served the wealthy, but also supported research and treatment programs that benefited all levels of society. As Aurora concluded her speech, she caught Ethan's eye in the audience. Their partnership had deepened into something unique, neither romantic nor purely professional, but a profound connection forged in crisis and strengthened by shared purpose. Together, they had shown that wealth and power could serve truth rather than suppress it. "Remember," she said, addressing the graduates but speaking to everyone who would carry their legacy forward, "luxury without ethics is emptiness. Power without responsibility is corruption. But innovation guided by conscience, that's how we build a future worthy of our potential." The applause that followed wasn't just for her words, but for everything they represented. The triumph of truth over manipulation, of ethical progress over artificial control, of human choice over algorithmic destiny. Later that evening, as the celebration continued in the Institute's elegant reception hall, Aurora stood with her extended family of allies and friends. Noah was deep in conversation with young tech enthusiasts from around the world. Dr. Chen and Victoria were discussing new developments in ethical AI with international colleagues. Ethan was mentoring a group of young entrepreneurs who sought to build businesses on foundations of transparency and innovation. The luxury that surrounded them no longer felt like a facade hiding darker truths. Instead, it represented the genuine prosperity that was possible when human creativity and ethical innovation worked together. The crystal chandeliers above caught and scattered light like the truth itself, complex, beautiful, and illuminating. As the sun set over the city, casting golden light through the Institute's windows, Aurora thought about the nurse she'd been and the journey that had brought her here. The world had changed, and they had changed with it. But the core truth that had guided them remained constant. Doing what was right mattered more than any amount of wealth or power. The future stretched before them, full of new challenges and opportunities. But now they faced it with clear eyes and honest hearts, knowing that true progress came not from controlling reality, but from embracing it with wisdom and integrity. In the end, that was the real legacy of their struggle. Not just the fall of Project Oracle, but the rise of something far more valuable. A world where truth, however complex or challenging, was valued above artificial perfection. A world where luxury served purpose rather than power, where technology enhanced humanity rather than controlled it, and where the future, though uncertain, was genuinely their own to shape. What did you think of this story? Leave a rating from 0 to 10 in the comments below. We'd love to see your opinion and give your comment a heart. In the last story, the unexpected took shape. Imagine a man so consumed by greed and lust that he abandons his wife as she faces the final stages of terminal cancer. After years of dedicating her life to him, she agonizes alone while he chooses to stay by his mistress's side. On the day of the funeral, he shows up without remorse, accompanied by the other woman with only one question on his mind. What did she leave for me? Little did he know, the answer would come like an unexpected blow, a twist that would shake him to his core. Some stories aren't just about betrayal, they're about justice. Click now on the video appearing on your screen and uncover the breathtaking conclusion to this story. See you there.